So my story begins with my mom. My parents fled war in Sudan during the civil war. So they walk through ash terrains and they finally made it to Kakuma Refugee camp. That is where I was born. I've always knew Kakuma to be a home to me. As a kid growing up, I didn't know much about displacement or war or what my parents survived when fleeing my country. As a child, I wanted to eat, play with friends, go to school. That is how life was to me. So one day I went to school. When I was on my way from school, when I got home, I heard my dad shouting, "Woman, you can't keep doing this to me." And my mother was crying. Oftentimes, my dad would fight my mom. I thought maybe my mom talked too much because most of the time, even after crying, she would still want to speak. So after beating my mom, and my dad finds you, watching, he would eat you, and you'll end up crying. So that was home to me. So one day, I was from the playground, and I heard that my dad left. It really disturbed me because most of the time when I get home and my dad was having his meal, he would call me, "Kidi, come," as he was eating. Then I could join him and eat. So back then he used to call me Abua, means someone fat. But right now I'm a bit tiny. So when my dad left, it was a relief. We were happy that he left because there was no more shouting, there was no more beating and conflict at home. But then another silence came. The fact that we didn't have a father. He had left. So growing up, the whole burden was on my mom's shoulder. So we are a family of 6, 3 sisters and 2 boys. It was really tough for my mom. So growing up, I became soft. Much of my feminine side showed more. And it was so hard. At the same time, home being at conflict, the next place that could have been safe for me was the playing ground. But again, the playing ground was not so safe. Kids could run into fight. And most of the time, I end up getting beaten. Not that I don't know how to fight. And when I get home crying, my mother will hurt to it. She'll beat me up and always tell me that why did you allow yourself to be beaten? So I wasn't going to the playground that much. So one day someone showed me to the library. So I go to this library in Kakuma called the Ethiopian Library. So at the library, I found big guys reading thick books. So I went to where newspapers were and magazines. I went through them. And every time I could come back to the library. But then I didn't know where my dad went to. My sister told us that he left. And later my brother said that my dad left for Sudan. I didn't know where Sudan was. That was when I learned that Kakuma was not where I'm from, and that I was from Sudan. And it was always a strange thing to learn that a place that is home to you is only in stories that you hear from your parents. So that was when I learned that my country was a place I never been to. So after some time in primary school, I got a chance to go to a boarding school. I studied. I was always in and out of school because of arrears. But then it was stressing me a bit. But one day I told myself that it's too much. All I wanted was to just finish school. So when I did my exam with little school experience, I didn't do as I would want to, but I was happy that at least I had finished school. So then in the camp growing up, we depended on humanitarian aid. No day did we know that one day there would be cuts to humanitarian funding. Parents relied on food aid and food ration to feed their families. So cuts were announced and women organized. There was a protest in the camp. There wasn't much reporting on what was happening then. In the mainstream news, there was only a mention of the protest, that there's a protest in the camp. There wasn't much digging into why the protest was there. So I began writing. I began writing, documenting what was happening during the protest. So as I was writing in the first day of the protest, during the second day of the protest started peacefully, but it later turned violent, and 4 people were shot on spot. So I wrote another poem titled Mother, I Failed Today. So I posted it online, people shared it more, and later it led to someone, a PhD student from the London School of Economy, who came across the work, and it led to a book project. And together we wrote a book titled The Forgotten Faces. So the library I always went to had a lot of books. But then most of the books in the library were Western books. Back then, I read Shakespeare, Charles Dickens, Brunto's Family. That was all that was there in the library. Then one day I came across a book titled Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. I read it then because you had to leave the book in the library, so I kept hiding the book. Where there were some books that were in Amharic, so I could go hide the book there. Because I know those Ethiopian men, when they would only look for Amharic books. So I would find it the next day, I come back to the library. Then after some time, I read The River Between, and I saw myself in the book. So I would always go back to the library, and reading became my passion. I write more. And right now, I'm documenting our lived experiences and writing more. Thank you.